Hello, it is me. I am wearing an amazing dress and it's really exciting and I love it because it's special, because it's old. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, look how fancy I look. Oh, I missed there's a little snap right here. Okay. All right, so this is, and it's like super soft. Oh, you need a better look. Just look at it. Oh, so beautiful. So this is for sale, but it's also temporarily on my body. So, I noticed that there's not a ton of information out there on DEPOP, so I wanted to go ahead and just talk about my little tips and tricks for DEPOP. I sell about 50% on DEPOP and 50% of my inventory on Poshmark. So I post them both on both sites. I post them all on both sites, and they sell, 50-50 on Poshmark or DEPOP. Most of my suggestions are going to be very similar to suggestions I would make for Poshmark. However, Poshmark is a little different in that there's kind of a complicated algorithm as opposed to on Depop. The more followers you have, it's kind of like Instagram, so more people see your stuff, the more followers you have, and your followers will very often buy from you. So, and like interact with your page. It's very similar to Instagram and I really like it. You can only currently put up 4 pictures and 1 video if you need to get some sort of like action shot of like something super sparkly, or I've used the video feature before to do like a dress twirl because dress twirlers are great. And I like twirling. I'm a twirler. A twirl for fun. So on Depop, there's not really a way to reach out to people other than through direct message, and Depop doesn't really like that. They don't want you to message every single person that likes one of your items. So what I do is I see who liked my item and I go and look at their page, and if it looks like they make a lot of purchases, then I will go ahead and reach out to them. But if they're just kind of like a casual user that maybe has 1 or 2 purchases or is a seller themselves, I will not reach out because I don't want to get reported for spamming, because that's no good. When I do use that method, I have completed some sales that maybe would not have been completed if I hadn't offered a bundle discount or something like that. I'd say about 1/3 of my sales total are from me reaching out. And then there's also people who just buy stuff without asking any questions. I put all of my measurements up there. I put as many good pictures and, again, a good thorough description as possible. So most people don't really have a lot of questions unless it's about price. So I will get messages about price and people want it for this much or that much, and we'll go from there. So that is different, and you kind of, that's the way the platform is. You have to maneuver within that. So what I enjoy about Depop is that it's very much focused on consistency, I guess. The way that your page looks is going to affect significantly whether or not people are going to continue to look through it. So you want to have a consistent background, or a clean background, or so. I've got the same background that I use in all of my pictures, and I feel like if there's a lot of like changes as far as like lighting and style and styling and the way that you have it presented, if it's modeled or if it's on a hanger or if it's on a mannequin, You want to keep that relatively consistent, just because it makes the buying experience a little bit easier. I also want to talk about a few things that I've sold lately on Depop. So we have, my most recent sale was this vintage sweater vest by Nuggets. I described it as a vibrant black and white Fair Isle knit contrasting / patchwork style and brilliant blue mother of pearl buttons. I also used some keywords down at the very bottom of my listing. I add a few spaces and then I use some more keywords. So I had authentic vintage, Harry Styles, because he wears a lot of sweater vests. People look up Harry Styles for whatever reason on, I don't know, that's what they look up. Boyfriend fit, cozy knit, cool print, patterned, mother of pearl, all of that stuff. Make sure that your keywords have a shit to do with your listing, because it's really annoying when people are going to look for an authentic vintage sweater vest and they see a not very authentic vintage SpongeBob shirt, so use appropriate tags, because people aren't going to look at what they're not looking for. So if you put your SpongeBob t-shirt next to all these other authentic vintage sweater vests, there's no point, because they don't want your SpongeBob t-shirt. That's not what they're looking for. So next we have, now this sat for a hot minute. This is probably sat for a year. It was a vintage purple and pink fleck patterned midi skirt. This was by Liz Claiborne. It sold for $18.40. Next we have, for $30, a 80s or 70s giant bishop sleeve blouse. Features super cool vibrant primary color block pattern all over in classic vintage sketchy style. Massive sleeves, super soft cotton fabric, and lightweight. And then again, I had authentic vintage, retro style, trendy, because all of those things do apply there. So that one sold for $30. Next, we've got a pair of fantastic vintage high-waisted tapered leg trousers. Feature ultra high waist and gorgeous shade of bright green, perfect for spring, soft and breathable. And then we've got the measurements there, and that sold for $30. Now we have a vintage baby doll tank top dress. Features wildflowers floral pattern on a black background, very 90s, looks great styled over a white top with docks or booties. This was before I started adding the measurements, but I model all of my listings and I do give out the information about what my measurements are. So I model all my stuff. So that sold for $20. Next we have a 5-star review on this bad boy. Super cool vintage blouse, probably from the 80s, with lace front panel puff half sleeves, with scalloped cuff, high neck with ruffle details, button down blouse style, slightly yellowed from age. That sold for $30. Next we have super cute naturally distressed. Naturally distressed. See what I did there? That's smart. Naturally distressed. Brown leather belt, thick solid leather, Native American / Western / Mexican style buckle, and medallions throughout the belt. One medallion is starting to come off, but that's an easy fix. Again, all of the information, no matter, if you think that it's going to affect your sale, it may not. This belt sold for $28, and that's what I had listed it for. Next we have a pair of excellent condition Clark's black loafers with bronze gold hardware buckle detail, 2 layers of fringe, round toe, chunky wide heel. Clark's is a good brand to pick up, if you ask me. It's a recognizable brand. They sell for a pretty good bit, and if you find them in great condition, plus they're loafers. Like, everybody loves a loafer. I love a loafer. So those sold for $35 doll hairs. Next we have gorgeous bright pink vest by vintage brand Ultra Pink. Features super soft worn-in fabric, beautiful Victorian brocade style print, good condition aside from spots on the back, super cool preppy girly western vibes. So again, this was another that it had like 2 pretty sizable spots on the back, and I shared that information. I was honest about it in the listing. Considering that it did have those spots on the back, I did only list it for $22, but it sold for $22. Next we have adorable vintage maxi dress in brand new condition. This had the tags still on it, so that's going to be referred to as dead stock. Dead stock is new with tags, vintage. Features faux buttons and 2 adorable little black velvet bows and black Peter Pan collar. So a Peter Pan collar is kind of like this one, but it's rounded. So it's just like, it's very in right now. Statement collars are always fun. So, black Peter Pan collar, zips up the back, probably 90s based on style, and that sold for $22. Next we have, this was actually an international, sale. It went to New Zealand, and I was very excited when I picked up this dress. I knew it was worth a pretty fair amount of money just based on style. It didn't have any tags, but it felt like vintage lace. I've gained enough experience to be able to kind of look at something, even if it doesn't have the tags on it, and be like, oh yeah, that's vintage. So it was a full lace dress. It had nothing under it. So I styled it with a slip underneath it. Incredible condition lace maxi dress based on lace color and what's left of the tag. My guess is 90s. Features patchwork lace in different designs, flutter/puff sleeves, floor length, a little yellow from age, but nothing too noticeable for stains. Very reminiscent of 1920s. Does not come with slip, and that sold for $75 internationally. So, there are some Depop sellers that choose not to ship international, but I do. And I know that international buyers are sometimes more inclined to spend a little bit more money for what they want. So yeah, all of those sales aside from one were vintage. Vintage does really well on Depop because that's kind of what they advertise as. So, if you're a vintage seller and you're interested in checking out Depop to sell your vintage items, I strongly recommend it. I also strongly recommend that you look at their terms of service and their rules and stuff like that, because Depop is very protective of their community, and they do not want anybody who's going to be taking business away from Depop or anything like that. So they're very picky about that. So be careful. All of these sales were over about a week. So it can be done. I can do it. You can do it. We can all do it. You just have to be willing to put in the footwork and learn as much as you can about vintage style and current style and how to identify vintage and how to get your things seen as best as you can. I don't use a whole lot of really fancy equipment. I did invest in a rolling rack for my clothes just because it was easier. I did invest in a steamer. The steamer was only $40 on Amazon. I also got, you know, this, but most of this stuff is from thrift stores. Like all of these decorations and stuff, they're all from thrift stores, except for this guy because I had to have him. Look at him. Oops. Like, isn't this the cutest? I just love it. So, she had to be mine. I found her on Etsy. So yeah, if you enjoyed my video, give me a follow. Check out my Depop and Poshmark pages if you're interested in seeing some more examples of how to list your items and how to photograph your items. Feel free to leave me a nice comment. No mean comments allowed. Thank you.